tonight.
Gorbachev and Castro, two masters of international stagecraft. Bear hugs and long speeches as the Red Summit in the Sun climaxes.
This is the CBS Evening News. Dan Rather reporting again tonight from Havana, Cuba. Good evening. A glimmer of hope at best on Central America. Nothing concrete about forgiving debts, and some admission of differences on economic reform and exporting revolution. That is part of the early read by diplomats on what has and has not happened here. Among the other headlines are these. Gorbachev warns of strict discipline in Soviet economic aid to Cuba. He concedes that his economic reforms may not be right for the Cubans. The way the scene played out late today, for Gorbachev, it may have been the first time in a long time that he was upstaged.
All revolutions have had serious problems. Mistakes were made during the Soviet revolutionary process. We haven't had this kind of problem unless you consider me, as I've said before, a kind of Stalin.
That was 15 minutes into the introduction, and Castro was just getting warmed up.
Lastly, comrades,
35 minutes into the introduction, Castro seemed to be winding up. None too soon for his Soviet comrade. But still Castro droned on, 50 minutes before Gorbachev could come to the podium. And then Gorbachev, with warm words of friendship towards Castro, made it clear that he would continue down his own road. On economic aid to Cuba, a firm decision.
Time requires new changes in our economic relations. These should become more dynamic, more effective.
On his own political reforms, an acknowledgement that Castro wanted to hear.
we believe that this is not a universal formula. We know that each party must decide independently.
And about Central America, far less than the maximum the United States wanted to hear. With gusto and a traditional Russian bear hug, Gorbachev and Castro late in the afternoon signed a 25-year friendship treaty. The language broad and general. No obvious headlines here, yet it's bound to give the Bush administration a glimmer of hope and a great deal to chew over. For instance, the treaty language calls on Cuba and the Soviet Union to find solutions to regional conflicts, quote, solely by peaceful and political means. Taken strictly at face value, this could mean a backing away of Soviet and Cuban military aid to rebels in places such as El Salvador. Such specifics were not spelled out in the treaty. On trade relations between Cuba and the Soviet Union, only a broad call to eliminate unequal terms of trade between all nations, not just the two communist states. In contrast to yesterday, Castro spent much of this day with the Soviet leader outside, squiring him around to demonstration projects, construction sites, and health centers all across Havana. Gorbachev did tell interviewers from TASS, the Soviet news agency, that a key portion of his talks with Castro centered around what Gorbachev termed new thinking in Soviet foreign policy, easing world tensions by reducing military commitments abroad. No specific mention in the interview about Cuba, Nicaragua, or El Salvador. For his part, Castro told reporters today that the two communist leaders did not see eye to eye on everything, but he insisted that Cuba and the Soviet Union would remain friends forever.
Gorbachev indicated in his speech that he and Castro will work for improved East-West relations and that he may have gotten some softening in Castro's rock-hard anti-Americanism. In at least one sense, that may have come too late. In the middle of Castro's long introduction, which included denunciations of the United States, the representative of the U.S. Interest Section here in Cuba, Jay Taylor, left the hall in protest. Joining me now here in Havana is our Moscow man, Barry Peterson. Barry, let's first detail the glimmer, and that's all it is, the glimmer of hope for Central America.
Dan, I think we were a heartbeat away, just a heartbeat away from Gorbachev about to say something dramatic. And you know, you could see in his face, it was almost there. He wants to make a move. But let's look at a minute at what he did do, not at what he didn't do. He came to Cuba, he came face to face with a political leader who doesn't necessarily like his brand of communism. And how did it end? Fidel Castro gets up and he gives a speech praising Gorbachev. It was Fidel Castro who said that nasty word perestroika, not Gorbachev. So in a sense, he started to build a consensus. Maybe that big step comes the next time.
Quickly, Barry, there was a lot of talk of Gorbachev perhaps announcing that no more arms, Soviet arms, from Nicaragua, and something like a peacekeeping force going into El Salvador. Could that still happen?
I think it really could, for two reasons. One, because Gorbachev likes the dramatic gesture. He enjoys that. And secondly, it would force the Bush administration to do something, maybe meet at that summit table Gorbachev wants so badly.
Barry Peterson, thanks. On this keynote day of Mikhail Gorbachev's Havana visit, President Bush was also talking Central American peace back in Washington. He met with the peace plan author himself, Costa Rican President Arias. CBS News White House correspondent Wyatt Andrews reports the Bush inner circle was listening intently to the Gorbachev speech. Wyatt?
Dan, what the White House was listening to hear in Gorbachev's speech was a direct promise from Mikhail Gorbachev that the Soviets would cut all arms shipments to Nicaragua. That did not happen. There was one sentence in Gorbachev's speech in which he called for all nations to end all military shipments to the region, but to the White House that's too vague. It is not exactly what the administration was hoping to hear from the Soviet leader.
We expect the Soviet Union to urge Cuba and Nicaragua to halt the policies of violent subversion of neighbors.
I am hopeful that they will begin to disengage from this hemisphere. We shouldn't be here in the first place.
Without Soviet moderation, President Bush's own new policy toward Central America is threatened. While Mr. Bush has agreed with Congress to supply only humanitarian aid to the Contra rebels, the Soviets are still free to channel arms to the Sandinistas, and the Cubans are free to back the rebels in El Salvador. The Bush approach won an important endorsement from President Oscar Arias of Costa Rica today. But both presidents admit the Central American peace plan now needs Soviet help.
I think we have learned that we must change bullets by ballots, and we can only do this with the support of the Cubans and the Soviet Union.
Whether the Gorbachev speech has a lasting impact on the relationship between the United States and the Soviet Union or not, Oscar Arias today certainly gave a boost to President Bush. That's simply because during most of the years of the Reagan administration, the White House was almost always at odds with the will of the Central American presidents. Dan?
Thanks, Wyatt. Here in Cuba, it's no secret that Fidel Castro barely brooks any dissent. I'll be back with a report on what happened overnight here in Havana to some people who have been outspoken in their opposition to Castro.
It's deer season. Time to drive a bargain with your John Deere dealer. Now you can get $100 to $300 off on riders and tractors. Or choose accessories at no extra cost. But hurry, deer season ends May 31st. See your John Deere dealer and drive home a bargain.
Zing? Zing! What's zing? Zing is the cool, refreshing taste of new Cran-Fruit brand sauce. Ocean Spray's tangy blends of crushed cranberries and sun-sweetened fruit, like oranges or raspberries. Wait till you taste the cool, refreshing zing it gives sandwiches.
Wow!
Wait till you taste the zing it gives chicken. Or even pancakes.
Ooh.
Now you can add a cool, refreshing
zing! Zing!
to everything with new Cran-Fruit sauce.
Wait till you taste it.
This year, even if you have to pay money to the government, there's still a way you can get money back. From Subaru.
Up to $1,500 back or 4.9 financing on a Subaru.
We know what your home is really worth. When it comes time to buy or sell, no one knows more or cares more about the American home than Better Homes and Gardens.
Last night, CBS News correspondent Juan Vasquez reported on one of Cuba's most outspoken dissidents, Martinez Lara, and his strident opposition to Fidel Castro. You may recall that exclusive film. And even though Lara's voice may be singular here in Cuba, Castro's police were taking no chances. They came to his house at 4 a.m. today and arrested him. Joining me now is Juan Vasquez with the follow-up. Juan?
Dan, it looks as if the police took Martinez Lara into custody not so much for what he did as what they thought he might do.
There was a pre-dawn knock at the door at this apartment building where dissident meetings are often held. 5 uniformed officers swept in quickly before anyone could protest.
They took my mother with them and went to the station.
They searched the entire place, said the woman's 14-year-old son. They looked everywhere. The first hint that something was wrong came last night when this dissident group learned that one of its members was missing. Those arrested had planned to lead a protest march this evening at the Soviet embassy here. This is a flagrant human rights violation, said the president of the Cuban Human Rights Commission. It's proof of the human rights situation in our country. In Washington, the State Department also expressed concern.
We condemn this act by the Cuban government, which underlies the need for ongoing monitoring of the human rights situation in Cuba.
The key figure is Samuel Martinez Lara, head of the Cuban pro-human rights party, who was arrested and released last week for printing an anti-government newsletter. He has been outspoken in his criticism of the regime and of Fidel Castro.
Change will come, whether Castro wants or not, because there are economical, political, and social reasons that Castro cannot avoid.
Martinez Lara has not been heard from since his arrest. Neither have the others. This afternoon, the ex-husband and the daughter of the woman who was arrested went to the police station where they had been told she was being detained. Not surprisingly, they couldn't find her.
Dan, the dissidents were ready for trouble because of the march they planned, but nonetheless they were still shocked when it happened so swiftly. Old habits die hard.
Thanks, Juan. One note of historical irony tonight you may enjoy. We're broadcasting from the 23rd floor of the Havana Libre Hotel. It was once the Havana Hilton, and in 1959, during the early months of the Cuban Revolution, Fidel Castro lived and worked right here, on the very same 23rd floor. The tide of events moves in curious ways. Bob Schieffer is coming up with news of the day's other major stories, and I'll be back from Havana later in the broadcast with correspondent Bernard Goldberg and a look at Cuba's people and what Fidel Castro means to them.
I carry keys, I carry lipstick, I carry Metaprin, because you never know what you might need.
Hey, Metaprin! Oh, I had this real bad backache, and I asked the doctor. He said take Metaprin.
Well, I don't like taking pain relievers, but sometimes you need them, and the Metaprin works best for me.
Metaprin's made for tough pain because it's made with ibuprofen, the same medicine as in Motrin, and nothing's proven faster.
It really helps my arthritis.
If I get a headache, it's Metaprin for me.
I bet they could use some Metaprin.
When the pain gets tough, get Metaprin.
I've never been that much of a cereal eater, or even breakfast for that matter. But then I read 2 or 3 different articles about oat bran, and I thought to myself, why would you not eat this stuff?
Medical reports have shown oat bran can be important to your good health. Kellogg's Common Sense Oat Bran has more oat bran than any leading ready-to-eat cereal.
You know, I get up 15 minutes early just so I can do this.
New Common Sense Oat Bran, a sensible thing to do.
Hot coffee? No problem for my dentures.
Heat-resistant Fixodent spreads evenly to keep on fixing loose spots, no matter how often it gets hot.
I can drink hot coffee all day and still help a lady.
Fixodent, and forget it.
Believe it or not, these 3 prunes have more fiber than this entire bowl of bran flakes. Prunes, the high-fiber fruit.
The nation's worst oil spill spread rapidly again today, and authorities estimated it now covers about 1,640 square miles, 400 miles more than the last measurement. Officials said that the slick dump by the damaged tanker Exxon Valdez in the Prince William Sound threatens 3 of Alaska's most important salmon fisheries. All this just one day after authorities banned herring fishing. John Blackstone now with more on that.
For those who make their living on Prince William Sound, cancellation of the herring season is the most serious economic blow so far, a $12 million loss.
We're just about flat broke right now. We've got everything we've got is invested in this herring thing this year.
It is not just the fishermen who wait for the herring to arrive after a slim winter. The eagles are also waiting for this abundant food. Sea lions follow the herring into the Sound, and so do killer whales. Even the voracious otters of Prince William Sound can satisfy their appetites when spring begins.
You take a flower and you see the flower develop and bloom and blossom. And that's what it's like in the Sound in the spring.
Biologists estimate 55,000 tons of herring will swim into Prince William Sound in the next few days, but most of the spawning grounds where the fish are heading are thick with oil. Salmon are even more important than herring. When the salmon season opened last summer, fishermen hauled in overflowing nets near the hatchery at Sawmill Bay.
We have oil already here, Al.
Now outside the hatchery, fishermen are working round the clock, hauling booms to soak up oil, struggling to save this corner of the Sound. And the struggle to save wildlife continues in the makeshift hospital in Valdez. More than 100 birds have been brought in, 15 have died. Oil-soaked otters are proving harder to treat. 44 have been washed, only half have survived. But most of the dying wildlife will never be found. Thousands of animals are lost in the isolation of Prince William Sound's silent spring. John Blackstone, CBS News, Valdez, Alaska.
They hailed the victors today in Ann Arbor, Michigan, a big rally for the University of Michigan basketball team, winners of the NCAA championship last night as they beat Seton Hall in overtime. But officials were also adding up the cost of windows broken and street signs uprooted by 6,000 celebrating fans last night. Police made 8 arrests. One young woman was hospitalized after being hit by a car.
Here at our plant, we build quality cars. This engine's good for miles and miles, if you take care of it. That means changing the oil every 3,000 miles, and Jiffy Lube makes it easy. They give you an oil change with quality Pennzoil, chassis lube, and complete fluid service in 10 minutes. Please, see Jiffy Lube for an oil change with Pennzoil every 3,000 miles. We're proud of our work. We want it to last. Go, baby!
Jiffy Lube. We give more cars, more miles and miles.
I can drive for miles and miles.
Along with the fiber, are you getting something extra in your high-fiber cereal? All of these cereals contain sodium and added sugar. Fiber One, however, is low in sodium and has absolutely no added sugar. And you get more fiber in Fiber One. So get more of the fiber your body needs and less of the stuff it doesn't. Get Fiber One.
The day may come when every cooktop, range, and oven will let you clean up this easily. But isn't it nice to know Whirlpool cooktops, ranges, and ovens will let you do it today?
The truth is, heart specialists concerned about aspirin irritation recommend Ecotrin over Bayer to help prevent second heart attack. Consult your doctor about the only brand of aspirin that's safety-coated to protect your stomach. That's Ecotrin, and that's the truth.
An estimated 3 million cosmetic surgery operations are performed in this country each year. About 95% of them take place in a doctor's office. Well, a House subcommittee today heard some ugly stories about procedures designed to improve a patient's appearance. Medical correspondent Susan Spencer reports.
Tummy tucks, fat suction, new chins, new noses. Fed by patients' vanity and some doctors' greed, plastic surgery is booming, but not without problems.
For a little bit of fat, I ended up with a nightmare.
The nightmare started with liposuction, a fat removal procedure done on 250,000 Americans each year, and sometimes botched.
3 weeks after the operation, the entire front leg, well, down the front of my right leg caved in. There was an area 6 inches long and 6 inches wide, which I could place my hand into.
Joyce Palzo was left with open wounds after a tummy tuck.
I thought someone had control, and if no one in the medical profession had any control, why were they allowing ads like these?
I wasn't always glamorous, and I certainly wasn't beautiful. But just look at me now.
Many doctors agree ads are a problem, especially since there are no uniform standards for cosmetic surgeons. Specialties compete. No single board certifies them.
There is, in fact, nothing to prevent a physician, regardless of training, to present himself as a plastic surgeon, an aesthetic surgeon, a cosmetic surgeon, or a neurosurgeon.
Often surgery is done in the doctor's office, where there is no check on quality or on price, since cosmetic surgery is not covered by insurance.
Plastic surgery, subtly, in the last 5 years, is being viewed as the last refuge of the freebooter or the pirate. You can charge whatever the traffic will bear.
As for the poor patient, the best advice seems to be that when thinking of cosmetic surgery, think at least as hard about the surgery part as about the cosmetic. Susan Spencer, CBS News, Washington.
Israeli Prime Minister Shamir arrived in the United States today for his meeting with President Bush on Thursday in a move timed to bolster Shamir's reception. Israel said today that hundreds of Palestinians are being held without charge in a desert prison but will be freed tomorrow. The UN-sponsored peace plan in Namibia appears in danger of collapse tonight. South Africa threatened to suspend its role in the plan. It demanded UN action against Angolan-based black guerrillas it says are attacking South African forces in Namibia. Hundreds have died in heavy fighting since the plan took effect 4 days ago. Well, that's it from here. Dan Rather will continue our coverage from Cuba in just a moment.
Why a Canon color laser copier? Why a Canon color laser copier? Because only a full-color copy of a full-color original is a copy. The Canon color laser copier. Digital color makes the difference. Call toll-free 1-800-OK-CANON. A recent test compared the Toyota Tercel stick shift, the Hyundai Excel stick shift, and the Subaru Justy automatic. But we made it tougher on the Justy. Because you don't shift the Justy, and its ECVT automatic makes it accelerate and pass quicker than the Hyundai and the Toyota. Proof that Subaru can beat the competition with one arm tied behind its back.
Get $500 back on a Subaru Justy or 4.9 financing through May 2nd.
Today's X-Lax is a good morning, guaranteed.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Medical experts agree. X-Lax actually restores the level of natural fluid in your system.
Good morning.
X-Lax, the sure way back to natural regularity, guaranteed.
We know what your home is really worth. When it comes time to buy or sell, no one knows more or cares more about the American home than Better Homes and Gardens.
I'm now at one of the most beautiful spots in Havana, Cathedral Plaza, with CBS News correspondent Bernard Goldberg.
Dan, that cathedral is as old as the United States of America. It was completed in 1777, which is just 1 year after they signed the Declaration of Independence.
Right. As one who's been coming here since the 60s, I'm reminded, Bernie, of three things. One, how much harder Castro is trying to make accommodations with the church. Two, how much of the city has deteriorated. And three, how hard the Cubans have worked to spruce up this section of old Havana, the stuff of Hemingway, as a showcase to get tourists in hard currency.
Right. You know, whenever we travel to places like this, at least whenever I travel to places like this, admittedly, I bring along my preconceived notions with me. But when you get there, the place, the people, there are always surprises. It's never quite what you imagined it would be. The images can be seductive, but the shadows can't obscure the realities here in Cuba. Havana is a place that got lost in time. Try to make a simple phone call and you find out that there's no such thing as a simple phone call. You wait in long lines to buy things, but there's not much to buy. The standard of living has actually dropped in the 1980s. And you get the feeling that the only reason they don't have an auto museum is because all the cars are still on the road.
1, 2, 3, 4.
And the benign images can't obscure the reality that this is a hardline, repressive communist dictatorship. But try telling that to the senior citizens who work out at this plaza each morning. Now we have hospitals, we have health care, we have jobs. We're happy. Many Americans think that you live in a dictatorship where you cannot criticize the government, where you do not have a free press, where if you say the wrong thing, you may get hauled off to jail.
Habla, vea, habla.
No, que ella dice que sí.
No, no existe esa mordaza ante nosotros los cubanos.
They don't muzzle us here, she says. We have many freedoms in Cuba.
De hablar.
But what about the restless youth? The University of Havana, Fidel Castro's alma mater, one of the few campuses in the Western world that has a tank right outside the law school. When was the last time somebody ran against Fidel Castro?
Nobody has run against Fidel Castro.
Ever?
Ever.
And you think you live in a democracy?
I live in a democracy.
And you are free?
I'm free.
You are free?
Quietly free.
You say you're free? And Fidel Castro is a hero?
He's a hero, right? He's a hero.
Not everybody, of course, is on Fidel's cheerleading squad, although most of his critics already have fled.
It is very difficult for me. In this country, there is many problems for the Cuban people, for the people of Cuba.
Some of the kids who hang out on the waterfront wouldn't exactly qualify as political dissidents.
Mucho problem.
Mucho problems?
For you.
Many problems for you? What kind? ¿Qué tipo?
Problem. Ropas, talones, zapatos.
Shoes, clothing?
Yes.
You need them?
Yes.
We have images of people who live in drab, bleak communist dictatorships, and this isn't one of them. Saturday night at a club in Havana. But if our images of them are in black and white, so are their images of us. 4 young men who have never been to the United States. What kind of images do you have of the United States?
La familia pobres.
There are a lot of poor families and discrimination, they say. And there's lots of unemployment, too. Do you think Americans are free?
Se sienten un poco como con temor.
I think they're afraid, he says, afraid of crime, afraid of being assaulted on the street.
Le vamos a mandar un beso de la paz.
And at the plaza, a goodbye kiss. We're giving you the kiss of peace, she tells us. It is a gesture really to all Americans. We are neighbors, after all. We live just 90 miles apart. Adios. Good luck. 90 miles and about 30 years.
But for accuracy, we need to remind our viewers there's still an awful lot here that one cannot do.
Sure, you're allowed to take pictures of the cathedral, but you can't take pictures of the massive Soviet embassy. You're allowed to take pictures of the beautiful tourist beaches, but you can't take pictures of anything military. They let you take pictures of the new housing that's going up around Cuba, but you can't take pictures of the new nuclear power plant that the Soviets are building here in Cuba.
And that's so much of what modern summits are about, images and perceptions. Mikhail Gorbachev is about finished here in Havana, a few more hours of talks, and it's on to Great Britain and the meeting with Margaret Thatcher. It may be a while before we really know what happened at this communist summit. This much we already know. Castro and Gorbachev have enhanced their images as charismatic and dramatic players who know how to command stage. That's tonight's CBS Evening News. Dan Rather with my colleagues Bernard Goldberg, Juan Vasquez, and Barry Peterson. See you tomorrow. Good night.
Tomorrow on CBS This Morning, the Gorbachev-Castro meetings and how they'll affect America. Also, actress Marlee Matlin. Join Harry Smith and Kathleen Sullivan on CBS This Morning.
This is CBS.